Welcome everybody to another bonus episode of Founders Talks, where we talk to founders about how they got started and where they're going. We had the opportunity to catch up with Mr. Forman of Bonita Payments, who you may recall from season 1. Since then, a couple of things have changed at Bonita Payments, and I have here Mr. Forman to tell us a little bit about his vision towards small businesses.
Yes.
Mr. Forman, thank you so much for joining us once again.
My pleasure, Sebastian.
As always,
Yes.
delightful pleasure to see you.
Yeah.
Really great to have the opportunity to catch up with you today.
Yeah.
And tell me a little bit about, kind of where we left off last time.
Well, the last time we spoke, I enjoyed it. I want to thank you very much for that opportunity. We had a chance to speak on a lot of things. It was a very, very good interview about, small business, the climate, things that, they're faced with, and, my vantage point of that, and, what I would give to any aspiring entrepreneur when it came to, what's next. So in the interim, since, being, away from the camera, I got a chance to think about some of the core principles that I would like to instill into today's small business owner, today's small entrepreneur. And I don't really like the word small, but at the end of the day, there are very few corporations that actually power the entire labor force across the U.S. The small business is the backbone of this country. And so I am very passionate about trying to make sure that they have all the tools and the resources that are necessary to be successful. And in trying to achieve that, we come up with a couple of things that I think I want to share with you all today to make sure that, they're getting off on the right foot.
Beautiful. So why don't we dive right in? As a small business owner, it's very difficult for me to gonna face many challenges as I get started.
Sure.
So I would like to get into the sense that I'm picturing myself having an idea, quitting my job to execute this idea. What should I know before I get started, and what should I know while I'm in the journey?
Okay, well, you just identified the single most important thing, the why. If you know what you want to do and why you want to do it, then that should shape everything else downstream about the business, okay? So for instance, if you love to cook and you love to feed people, that is a why. That is a what and a why. Now we need to address the money and the how and some other components, but that's the very big start. And I would ask any small business owner, please start with your why. What are you trying to do? Why do you want to do it? And from there, the passion can probably fuel you to a lot of other areas. But guess what? Business is science. And you are most definitely going to have to figure out the science of it, the math of it, in order for it to work. Because guess what? Most small businesses fail within the first 2 years. That's if you're lucky. Most of them don't make it 6 months. If you knew the metrics on small businesses today, the data is available out there. You can look it up, and it's not a downhill spiral. It's a fall off a cliff kind of situation. I would ask business owners to invest in themselves, to be smart, to be vigilant, to try to stay as lean as possible. And like I said, I want to talk to you about a couple of core principles, and we can identify them individually.
Okay. So what would you say is we're to break this down as, pillars or legs of a stool?
Pillar number 1 is the why, the purpose. If you have a purpose, then you can develop a business. Okay? Nobody has the most meticulous business plan and they're ready to go from 5 to 10 to 15 to 20 years. If they are, then I don't even know how that's possible, but let's move past that. The purpose of the business is arguably the theme, the chapter, the title of the book. Okay? The number 2 thing I would say is the money. I love speaking about money because I know that it moves things. It makes things better. You need it. It's an absolute requirement for life. I think that it's absolutely, underrated. It's overlooked. So many chefs get in business because they have great cooking skills and they don't know what the cost on the plate is. Or they don't know what the cost of labor involved in the plate, the taxes involved in the plate, the real estate involved in the taxes and the plate and the employment, so many other things. So just because you have a purpose doesn't mean you have the financial aspect of your business, in a very good space. And I say, keep the hood of the Ferrari up and work on the money, because without the money, you can't have a business.
It's very difficult, especially, it's almost like the money is the fuel to any business.
It's
And
not
it's
only
the blood
it
of the business,
correct, but just think about what I'm saying. So many business owners have a great why and don't have a monetized plan to be able to recover, to sustain, and to grow a business. And that is just why most businesses fail within the first 2 years.
I would agree, is especially, so minority founders,
Okay.
it's even more difficult, I would say, to
Well, let's
access
talk about
capital than, the traditional, individual who would go in, whether it's to ask money for friends and family,
Okay.
a bank loan,
Okay.
as you can imagine, is a lot more difficult
Let's talk about that.
So please.
So you are a budding entrepreneur. You have an amazing idea because your why and your purpose are in line. You know what it is you want to do and you know why. You go to a bank and you ask for a loan, you need to be flawless. You need to have the single best idea ever. So I'm going to give you something that you can remember forever. The better your idea, the less you have to explain it to someone. Okay? And if people are immediately attracted to the idea, then that means that you have something. But if you got to tell an entire story about why when you got off the school bus when you were a kid and how you got to where you are now, then all those things take away from the core purpose and the why of what your business is all about. Okay, so if you have the only restaurant in town, it's a no-brainer. You don't have to do a lot of explanation on that. So now we need to figure out the money portion. But like I say, so many small business owners have not identified their money mechanics so that when they go to a bank and have a sit down, they're able to clearly define and lay out the vision, and they can, at that point, the money from a bank becomes just an investment anchor, a tool. So I give you $100,000. The idea that you have is a great idea. We can see the ROI, the return on that investment. But today's banks are just not loaning money.
Yeah. It's not like back in the days where you have a community bank.
Yep.
Where I go in, make my deposits
Yep.
every single month, and I develop a relationship with my banker. I feel that
that's not going to happen.
Right. The consolidation, I would say, of banking now is, from small banks to now, now we have these behemoths with hundreds of billions of dollars.
That's correct.
Under asset management. It becomes very difficult to create that relationship with a customer.
So you walk into a bank, you ask them for money. You need to have a flawless credit score. You need to have an amazing plan. You need to have metrics on your money, taxed, everything on paper, fully transparent, completely laid out by a Harvard mathematician like yourself, and you're just not going to have that. That's not going to be a reality. And so if you can't produce that level of documentation, why would a bank give you money on an idea?
Yeah.
6 months in, no deposits, no residuals, no nothing verifiable. You don't have any tax returns. You don't qualify as a small business to get a loan immediately. Okay, so you have a friends and family round. So you go and ask all your family and friends to kind of chip in and help you to get to that next level. You still need to be able to have some way to give them a return on their investment,
right.
Because just giving money to somebody for goodwill because they have a great idea.
That's charity. Right?
It's charity. That's ultimately what it is, charity. And you don't even have a tax strategy to be able to give them a reduction on their taxes because of your charity.
So we had the chance to touch on the why.
Mm-hmm.
So the main reason why you got into business.
Correct.
I would say the second pillar you mentioned will be, the monetary aspect of business. The
Absolutely.
ability to fund and fuel the growth of a business
Mm-hmm.
through the financial aspect of it. What is the third pillar that maintains or gives structure to the stool, as we're using this analogy in here?
It's closely related to the why. It's going to be how you tell the story. Okay? So arguably the marketing, arguably the publicity, the whatever. So you got this great idea. You know how you're going to make money. Your mechanics are intact. Now you need to tell that story. That would be the trifecta of business. So there are only two ways to make money. Buy low and sell high, or get good at something and charge somebody for it. Meaning like a service provision or something like that.
Right.
We're currently in a hotel. So they are good at providing stays, and we want that, so we're going to come here and pay for that. Okay? It could also be considered retail in some aspects. So, but because we're buying something or we're utilizing something, so it's very tricky, but that's really it. So with regards to the marketing, I would say be authentic. Be the best version of yourself. Rob and duplicate. Back in the day, it's called research and development. Imitation is a form of flattery. Nothing new under the sun. If you want to be a restaurant, study restaurants. If you want to be a television personality, study television personalities. Actors, actresses, there's always some script that's available. And so if you're not willing to be obsessed with your business that you're passionate about, with a purpose that you've monetized and that you're willing to tell a story, then guess what? Maybe you need to think about a career change.
Completely agree. I feel like a lot of people go into business for the wrong reasons.
Oh, all day, every day.
And even when, like as you touched earlier, even once I understand my why, then, let's take, for example, the example of the cook who loves to cook, decides to open a restaurant. Well, you still have to be business savvy at the end of the day in order to, create the financial momentum to continue growing from, one location to two locations and so forth. And even to grow to two locations, you are required to also have some marketing skills.
That's right. You listen, every small business owner will become a tax professional, a dishwasher, a janitor, a delivery driver, in every possible thing related to the success of the business. You have to. You can't just write a check and delegate all day long. At some point, you're going to have to wear those hats. This is pre-scale now. At some point, you're going to have to wear those hats and understand them and understand each and every aspect of that business in order to be successful. It's just a requirement. It's hard out here. 2 years is the goal. Yeah, not anymore. Survival every day is the goal.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. I think that's a phenomenal way to, conclude this bonus episode, and the fact that, it really is so much more complex than sometimes we think. Sometimes, and I feel like maybe if you had known what it takes to start a successful business, maybe a lot of people would not jump into the fire, more or less. But I feel that providing a structure as to what is necessary as a fundamental pillar of a successful business, it's key to the next future and the next generation of entrepreneurs. Mr. Forman, thank you so much. It has been a phenomenal pleasure, as always. Really appreciate that. Come on, bring it in, man. Ladies and gentlemen, do not miss our new season of Founders Talks, dropping soon.